Hello, fans of all ages. This is indeed the Morik Show, coming to you live from Studio A here at the Ramapo College of New Jersey. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in. I am indeed Morik, and welcome to another hour of this show. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, a lot of football news going on, especially in the free agency world. We have some stuff going on with the Mets, and we are just 1 week away, actually less than 1 week away from Selection Sunday for the March Madness tournament. Can't wait, very excited. But first, we have to talk about something kind of sad. As you may have noticed, a change in music. This song played to start off the show on Thursday, and I had to play it again today because today is March 9th. And the greatest rapper of all time died on March 9th. Notorious B.I.G., Christopher Wallace, Sean killed 18 years ago today. Rap, the game changed from ever since that day happened. No one has come close to what Biggie Smalls can do, and I don't think anyone will ever come close. So Biggie Smalls, Christopher Wallace, Notorious B.I.G., rest in peace, Brooklyn's finest, rap's finest. Without a doubt, no one's ever going to come close to what he did ever again. So all day, actually for the remainder of the show, you're going to hear some solid Biggie Smalls on this show. The start of the show, my updates, the end of the show, Biggie, the whole time. Best ever, without question. Free agency starts tomorrow at 4 o'clock Eastern Time in the NFL, but that did not stop some teams from making some big splashes, especially the Miami Dolphins. No pun intended there. They signed Ndamukong Suh to a 6-year, $114 million deal with $60 million of it guaranteed. $60 million guaranteed for a defensive tackle. Wow. Before I get into how this helps out the Miami Dolphins, I'm going to start off with how it affects a bunch of other teams. First off, Ndamukong Suh's now former team, the Detroit Lions. The Lions defense, I'm not going to say it went down the drain, but it definitely downgraded. The Detroit Lions just lost a 6'4", 300-pound plus tackle who can rush up the field from basically anywhere on the line. 5 years in the NFL, he has 4 Pro Bowls. He has 3 first-team All-Pros in his first 5 years, 36 sacks as a defensive tackle. No, that's not overwhelming numbers for a defensive lineman, but you have to remember, this guy is a defensive tackle. He's not on the end. He is playing right in the middle of the line. It's unbelievable what this guy can do. I think he's overpaid. This guy's getting more money than J.J. Watt. This guy's getting quarterback money. But Ndamukong Suh is the best defensive tackle in the game, in my opinion. Last year, the Lions let up 69.3 yards a game, mainly because this guy straight up locks up the middle. Last year, they were in first place in opponent rushing yards, like I said, 69.3 yards a game. The Lions are still going to have a pretty good defense, and also remember, Nick Fairley's also a free agent. Them two, especially Ndamukong Suh, are going to be very, very difficult to replace. The Detroit Lions have their work cut out for them this offseason and the 2015 NFL regular season and so on and so forth. The NFC North has to be very, very excited about this one. Going to throw out a quick stats really quickly. September 21st, the Lions played against the Packers. The highest rusher for the Packers was James Starks. He had 38 rushing yards. October 12th, against the Vikings, their highest rusher that game, Jerick McKinnon, 40 yards. November 27th against the Bears, Kadeem Carey was the Bears' leading rusher that game. He rushed for 8 yards. 8 yards. December 14th against the Vikings, again, their leading rusher that game, Matt Asiata with 52. 1 week later against Chicago again, Matt Forte was their leading rusher with 55 yards. And you guessed it, they won all of those games. Another impressive stat that I saw involving the Lions' running defense last year, they let up 100 rushing yards in a game once all of 2014. It was week 17 against Eddie Lacy, who ran for 100 yards. Even. It took the Lions until the last week of the NFL season to let up 100 rushing yards. And it was to Eddie Lacy, who is a phenomenal running back. And most of that was because of Ndamukong Suh. The Lions' defense was incredible last year because of this guy. The stats do not lie for the most part. And when you let up 100 rushing yards once in a season, and it was to Eddie Lacy, who ran for 100 yards even, do you know how hard it is to let up less than 100 yards a season? If a running back goes off for one good run, literally just one good run, a 20, 30, 40-yard run, odds are they're going to finish the rest of the game with 100 yards. Now let's take a look at Ndamukong Suh's new division, the AFC East. First of all, with the Bills' acquisition of LaShawn McCoy, watching LaShawn and Ndamukong Suh play in the same division, watching them play each other twice a year, every season for the next 5 or 6 years, that's going to be very fun to watch. The Bills' running game improved a lot. The Miami Dolphins' defensive line improved a lot. An improved run game, an improved defensive line. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch that. Now, the New York Jets, I didn't know this until today, actually. They had the third most rushing yards per game last year. They averaged 142.5 yards a game last year. And the Patriots were up there also. They had 108 rushing yards a game. You imagine that'll probably go down a little with Suh joining the Dolphins and the Patriots possibly losing Shane Vereen. But all I know is that Tom Brady is not going to have fun this year. Tom Brady has to face a very dangerous Jets front seven, a very dangerous Miami Dolphins defensive line, and the Bills have a solid front seven also. Honestly, this offseason, the only good thing to happen for Brady involving his opponents was the Bills releasing, Kiko Alonso. That's basically it. Because the Bills got rid of a very, very solid linebacker when they traded for LaShawn McCoy. Kiko Alonso, remember, 159 tackles in his rookie year. That's not a fluke. And he tore his ACL last year, so he didn't play at all, but he's had about 12 months to recover from this. He's going to be back very strong, very healthy. 159 tackles in his rookie year, you assume he's going to get a lot better. Guy's 25 years old. He's going to be a problem for Brady, the rest of that division, and every single team he plays. Tom Brady cannot run against this team, against any of these defenses for much longer. Expect a lot of quick passes and a lot of runs. Tom Brady and the Patriots, they're coming off of a well-deserved Super Bowl. They were an awesome team. but Tom Brady's getting up there. And when you have the Tom Brady and the Patriots have to play 6 games against the AFC East. 6 games with very good defenses. Very good defenses. Tom Brady's, what is he, 37, pushing 38 or something like that? Tom Brady's going to have his work cut out for him. Tom Brady might wear down by the end of the year by playing these defenses. Now let's take a look at the Miami Dolphins, his new team. First of all, they have Cameron Wake, who is awesome. They have Olivier Vernon. They're great defensive ends. They were shaky up the middle with the tackles. And now that Sue is the head honcho, he's the head guy up in the trenches, Vernon and Wake are going to improve a lot. That defensive line is going to be very scary. As great of a signing this is, I'm still picking the Patriots to win the division. Unless, like I said, Brady's body just wears down. In that case, Miami's going to contend for an AFC East championship. Division title, I should say. I still think the Patriots are the favorites because, you know, they have Tom Brady, who's, as much as I'm saying he's getting up there in age and his body might wear down by the end of the year, Tom Brady is arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. I legitimately think that the Bills are out of the question this year because they don't have enough weapons around LaShawn McCoy and whoever's playing quarterback for them. So I'm going to take the Bills out. The Patriots are obviously the favorites every year. Miami's going to improve a lot. Ryan Tannehill is a good quarterback, and this defense improved a lot by signing Sue. Long term, not great because they're giving Sue a lot of money. But short term, this is a very good deal for the Dolphins. And you know what? The Jets, they have a solid chance at winning this division now. You want to know why? Because the Jets traded for Brandon Marshall. I've been saying this for a very, very long time. The Jets, they need a QB, sure, but prior to getting Eric Decker, even with Eric Decker, not many QBs in the NFL can succeed with the Jets' quote-unquote weapons. They needed a QB because his, again, quote-unquote weapons make him a bad QB. Now, of course, Geno has made terrible, terrible mistakes. You can't deny that. Some of his throws have been wow. But it's very hard to succeed with Eric Decker as your number one. And who were Sanchez's main targets? How long did he have Braylon Edwards for? He didn't have that many targets. Honestly, prior to getting Eric Decker, or even with Eric Decker, I don't think there are a lot of QBs who can succeed with that core. Peyton, Brady, Rodgers are definite. And honestly, Andrew Luck, maybe. And honestly, I really think that's it. Maybe Breeze, but the Saints had a terrible year this year. So I'm even questioning if Drew Brees could possibly do it. Those three are really the only guys who can play well with that Jets roster. Now that Marshall and Decker are your 1 and 2 respectively, and Jay Samara has a year under his belt, and Jeremy Curley can perform well, Geno Smith can have a decent year. Geno Smith will not put up Pro Bowl type numbers. No way. but he knows he needs to perform. And I think with a new and improved wide receiver core, he can. Assuming that they don't trade for a QB or draft one in the draft, I'm just assuming Geno is their starter week 1. But now let's look ahead to the draft really quickly. Are the Jets better off with Marcus Mariota? Yeah, I think so. But I really don't think it would make that much of a difference now because they have this guy, Brandon Marshall. I think now we are really going, again, assuming if Geno starts, I think we're really going to find out if Geno can perform if he starts. Because remember, late in both of Geno's seasons, first season, his last 4 games, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he had the highest QB rating in the league. He was awesome those last 4 weeks. Week 17 last season, he was the only quarterback with a perfect passer rating. Geno Smith, if he doesn't make mistakes, the guy can perform well. And now that he has Brandon Marshall as his number 1, a legitimate red zone threat, a top 15 receiver in the league, I think Geno can succeed. I don't think the Jets are a Super Bowl team, but I think they can make the playoffs, possibly. Especially, like I said before, with Brady and that whole team wearing down possibly with all of these great defenses. It's possible that the Jets can finish above 500 or at least 500. And do I think they're going to make the playoffs next year? No, not yet. I want to see if they can make a couple of moves, maybe get Darrelle Revis, see who they have at quarterback. But right now, this roster is looking like a 500 roster. Now back to Brandon Marshall. The guy has a little bit of trouble in the locker room. He's a bit out there mentally and psychologically. The guy's one man's trash, another's treasure. He's on thin ice with basically every team he goes to. He's been traded 3 times in the last 5 years. He sounds like a Jet to me already. In reality, though, this guy is a top 15 receiver in the league. He is very, very good. Honestly, after this year, I think he can perform very well this year, and I'm going to tell you why soon. He has the potential to be a top 10 wide receiver if he's not already. Every time the Jets are in the red zone, Brandon Marshall is going to be their guy. He is a red zone threat every single drive. The New York Jets have not had a red zone threat since Braylon Edwards, Plaxico Burress. Honestly, legitimately, a legit red zone threat, their last one, Keyshawn Johnson. Brandon Marshall is 6 feet 4 inches tall. He's 230 pounds. He's fast. He has ups. He has great hands. This guy is the definition of a red zone threat. This has always been a main concern for the New York Jets, and now it's not a concern, and he is a legitimate red zone threat. Sure, Braylon Edwards and Plaxico Burress, you would keep their eye on them if the Jets were in the red zone, but now you have to worry about this guy. Braylon Edwards and Plaxico Burress, you said to yourself, okay, keep your eye on them. They might get the ball, but don't be surprised if they do something different. This time, it's going to be Brandon Marshall. That's it. They're just going to throw fade routes to him all day. He's a legitimate red zone threat, and people have been comparing him to Keyshawn. Honestly, he's the best red zone threat since Keyshawn Johnson. Braylon Edwards in his 3 years as a Chicago Bear. Complete totals: 279 catches, 3,524 receiving yards, 31 touchdowns. So an average season, 93 catches, 1,174 yards, a little more than that, and just over 10 touchdowns a year. I think going to the Jets will decrease his yards. I think it will decrease his receptions. But I think his touchdowns are going to go through the roof. Last year was honestly his worst year as a Bear. And there were some games where he would completely tear it up. Last year he only had 8 touchdowns. I think he only had like 80-something catches. He was, again, 1,000-yard receiver. I think he can get 1,000 yards. I think he can get 80, 85 catches. But I think he's going to have a lot more than 10 touchdowns. I'm going to say 13, 14, maybe even 15 for this guy. This guy is the definition of a red zone threat. He will get up there and catch anything. Brandon Marshall is the guy who can get 3 touchdowns a game sometimes. Last year, I had him for fantasy, and he was performing poorly week after week after week. And then he had 2 or 3 weeks where he just had 3 touchdowns and 100-something yards, and he just went off. That's the kind of guy, that's the kind of player Brandon Marshall is. And now that Eric Decker is back at the 2 by a long shot is huge. Brandon Marshall is clearly the number 1 receiver for this team. It's not Eric Decker. This is a great move for the New York Jets. Now, Eric Decker, all of the pressure is not on him. Eric Decker is not a number 1 receiver. He was the number 1 receiver for the Jets last year because he was the number 1 receiver for the Jets. There was no one else nearly as good. Eric Decker and Percy Harvin were not a good 1-2. Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker are an awesome 1-2. Eric Decker was the 3 while he was at Denver. He was the 2-3 practically. Now he's back to his normal role as a number 2 receiver. He's going to be a lot more comfortable, and Brandon Marshall, I think, is going to have a lot of fun being a New York Jet, especially if the Jets can win, which I think they can do. You want to know let me rephrase that. The Jets have one more move to make if they really want to start winning football games. Get Darrelle Revis. Darrelle Revis' option was declined by the Patriots today, $20 million. Darrelle Revis said that he's going to beg for at least $16 million per season on the market. He said he's choosing between either the Patriots or the Jets. And the Patriots declined the option. Unless if they want to go long-term for a small amount of money, maybe Revis wants to do that. But Revis is notorious for going to where he's going to get paid more. And the Jets have a lot more money to spend after the Pats re-signed McCourty today. Or yesterday, whenever it was. Darrelle Revis, as for most athletes, it's either win more or get paid more. But remember what I said. Brady is not going to have fun against these defenses. The Jets just got Brandon Marshall, and I get it. The Pats are the Pats. They've won the division for 17 years in a row, and they just won the Super Bowl against the Seattle Seahawks. But the Jets, they have a solid website. They have a solid website. Someone just texted me asking for the website for the show. They have a solid chance of winning if they get Revis. They have a really good chance of winning if they get Revis. And Darrelle Revis should know that. This is really the only move the Jets need to make. And honestly, it would not be a bad idea for the Jets to make pushes for a lot of other guys. There are a lot of running backs on the market right now. A lot. You have DeMarco Murray. You have C.J. Spiller, Steven Jackson, No Sean Marino, Reggie Bush, Darren McFadden, Justin Forsett, and there are a ton more guys. There are a ton of more guys. You want to stay cheap? You can go with Steven Jackson and Reggie Bush, Darren McFadden. You can have Ahmad Bradshaw. You can get Matt Asiata, Bobby Rainey, Ben Tate, maybe even Chris Johnson if he's healthy. Keep him in your prayers. I'm sure you all heard about the incident that happened. He was shot in Orlando the other day, so keep him in your prayers. Let's hope he's healthy. The Jets, I know that they had a really good run game last year, but they would have a solid 1-2 with Chris Ivory and anyone I just mentioned. Whether Chris Ivory is the one behind DeMarco or Spiller, or if he's the two behind those guys, or if he's the one in front of Reggie Bush and Bradshaw and Rainey and Tate. That's not a bad running core. And Chris Johnson's a free agent. They're probably going to let him go. The Jets need to get Darrelle Revis, and it would not be a good idea to get that running back. I think if they get those two guys, I think the New York Jets are set. They're not a Super Bowl team, but they're going to be a lot better than they were this year and last year and the year before that. The New York Jets, if they get Darrelle Revis and one of these running backs for reasonable prices so they can make more moves in the future, they're set to be a 500 team and more. Now, the New York Giants, on the other hand, they have a lot of team needs. First thing, you immediately think of the offensive line. I get it. The O-line is bad. But take a look at this. Antrell Roll and Stevie Brown are both free agents. Larry Donnell cannot hold on to a football. John Beeson's always hurt. They have slow linebackers. They have no pass rusher besides Pierre-Paul, who hasn't even shown flashes of his rookie year at all. And now he's getting way too overpaid after being franchise tagged. Rashad Jennings was unhealthy for practically half the season last year. I'm not saying they need a running back, but I'll get into it soon. A lot of people and a lot of mock drafts are saying the Giants should need and are going to get an offensive lineman in the draft. Call me crazy. I don't want the Giants to draft an offensive lineman. I think if they're going to get an offensive lineman, they should sign a vet. I don't trust young linemen with Eli. And Eli's not going anywhere. The guy's going to be a Giant for a couple of years now. He's actually a free agent after this year, but you assume the Giants are going to sign him again. I just don't trust these 22, 23-year-old guys playing in front of a 32, 33-year-old Eli. And another thing about the O-line being bad, it was bad because they had a different offensive line starting every week, I feel like. I don't have the exact stats, but I feel like every week there was someone else on the offensive line. And they were all young guys, except Jeff Schwartz, but the guy was hurt for how long? I think the best options for the Giants to get an offensive lineman, make a run for Brian Bulaga and Dan Connolly. There are better offensive linemen on the market, but Bulaga and Connolly are not going to cost as much. Each of them are about $3 or $4 million. I think if they draft a lot, they've drafted so many linemen and they're not producing. Sign guys who have proven that they can play the line. I said before, Larry Donnell fumbles the ball every time he touches the ball. Here are a couple of free agent tight ends. Julius Thomas, who's going to cost a lot of money. Jermaine Gresham, probably going to cost a lot of money. Anthony Fasano, Zach Miller, Jacob Tamme, Jordan Cameron, Owen Daniels. They are all improvements over Larry Donnell without question. If Larry Donnell can hold on to a football, then he could be a dangerous tight end. But the problem, he can't hold on to a football. I said before with their linebackers, they are slow. John Beeson has played 24 of the last 64 games he possibly could have played in. We got Brian Arakpo. We got Trent Cole. We have Lance Briggs. We have A.J. Hawk. We have O.C. Umenyiora, who's thinking about making a return. Dwight Freeney, John Abraham, Brandon Spikes. They can maybe re-sign Jaquan Williams. They need linebackers. That's it. I think they're going to save the pass rush and the O-line options until the draft. But there are some solid D linemen on the market also. There's Greg Hardy. There's Barry Caulfield, who I've heard that he was thinking about making a return. You have Vince Wilfork. You have B.J. Raji, Chris Canty, former Giant, Nick Fairley, Robert Geathers, C.J. Mosley. All of these guys are solid defensive linemen. I know that there are some solid linemen and some solid pass rushers in the draft. And I know that the Giants aren't going to get every single one of these guys. But a lot of their draft picks have not been performing like we thought they would. Justin Pugh has been awful. Andre Williams is I can't name every single player that they've drafted, but besides Odell Beckham Jr., I don't really think any one of them except Jaquan Williams. He's performed pretty well, and I think he was either 6th, 7th round draft pick or maybe undrafted, not sure. But I don't think, to my knowledge, the Giants haven't had a recent draft pick where I really opened my eyes except Odell. And honestly, getting a running back behind or in front of Rashad Jennings is not a bad idea. The guys I named with the Jets, the Giants should at least talk to a couple of those guys. I think Eli is going to be fine. The wide receivers, going back to Eli really quickly. First year in this new West Coast offense, he threw for 65% of his passes. He completed 65% of them. And he only threw, 12 interceptions, I think? And he had one streak where he didn't throw one for 4 games. And then he had to make it up by throwing 5 against San Francisco. But honestly, 3 of those interceptions weren't his fault. Typical Eli. Eli Manning only had 12 interceptions, and some of them were not his fault. Eli's going to be fine. The wide receivers are great. But everything else is a question mark. Giant fans really have only a couple of people to feel extremely comfortable with. Eli Manning, Odell Beckham Jr., and honestly, Victor Cruz is even a question mark after coming off of an injury. I think he's going to be fine. I'm optimistic when it comes to the Giants every season, I feel like. But who knows with Victor Cruz? I think he'll be fine, but we'll have to wait and see. The Giants have to make some moves. And honestly, this is a very good free agent class to make those moves. I don't think they should save everything for the draft. There are solid veterans out there who can play the game. And no, you don't have to spend a fortune on guys like DeMarco Murray and Julius Thomas and whoever I just mentioned. But it's not a bad idea to spend money. They made a lot of pay cuts. They cut Kiwanuka. They cut J.D. Walton. They cut a couple of guys. They have money. Spend the Giants. Come on. What are you doing? There are some solid veteran free agents. This is the perfect opportunity to sign these guys. This is a very good free agent class. So make some moves. Here we go with some updates. Ramapo updates first. The indoor track team, men's and women's, was in action at the ECAC Championships on Friday and Saturday at the Armory. The men finished in 9th. The women finished in 17th. Jeremy Hernandez took first place in the men's 3,000 meter running in 8 minutes and 32.31 seconds. Peter Tui took home the mile by 0.05 of a second in 4 minutes 15 seconds and .06 seconds. Christina Cristea took home the pentathlon for the women with 728 points. And at the Tufts Last Chance meet on Friday in Medford, Massachusetts, Paul Julis, Kevin Diana, Peter Tui, and Jeremy Hernandez combined efforts today at the meet. They posted a record time at 10 minutes and .08 seconds in the distance medley relay, winning first place. The men and women will be back in action this weekend at the NCAA D3 Indoor Champs in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Yesterday, men's volleyball had a doubleheader here at the Bradley Center. They won both games in straight sets. First game against New Jersey City University, they won 25-12, 25-7, and 25-13. Justin Figelis had 9 kills. He hit .533. Ryan Cassie had 7 kills. He hit .500. Alec Weissman had 18 assists. Second game against Mount St. Vincent, they won 25-18, 25-18, and 25-20. Figelis had 12 kills. He had a .348 hitting percentage. Moranis Tavernier had 11 kills. He had an .833 hitting percentage. Alec Weissman had 38 assists. The Roadrunners are back in action tomorrow against Hunter College at the Bradley Center at 7 o'clock. Weather permitting, women's lacrosse takes on Mount St. Vincent on Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Pro sports in the NFL, Ndamukong Suh to the Miami Dolphins. 6 years, $114 million, $60 million of it guaranteed. LaShawn McCoy and the Buffalo Bills have agreed to a 5-year deal that would become official tomorrow once the new season officially is underway. Marshawn Lynch will return to the Seahawks. They have agreed to a 2-year deal. Chris Johnson, stable condition after getting shot in Orlando, Florida. The Green Bay Packers re-signed Randall Cobb to a 4-year, $40 million deal. The Cowboys re-signed right tackle Doug Free to a 3-year deal. And news today, Patrick Willis retiring at the age of 30. The Patriots re-signed McCourty for 5 years, $47.5 million. Jeremy Maclin headed to the Kansas City Chiefs. And Andre Johnson has officially been released by the Houston Texans. Moving on to spring training, A-Rod played third base yesterday for the first time in a live game since September 10th, 2013. He went 1 for 2 with a rip of a ground rule double. By rip, I mean a bloop that should have been caught, but it wasn't. Ground rule double. He also struck out. The Yankees beat the Nationals 3-2 yesterday. They were back in action today against the Tampa Bay Rays, and A-Rod went 2 for 3, 2 singles on the first pitch of each at-bat, one of them being an RBI single and a fly out to deep center field, warning track power. Oh, you gotta love it. He's 4 for 8 on the spring. Michael Pineda made his spring debut today. He went 2 innings, 1 hit, 2 strikeouts. He had very good command of his off-speed pitches and his fastball. Nathan Eovaldi, 3 innings of shutout ball, letting up 3 hits and 5 strikeouts. The Yankees beat the Tampa Bay Rays 4-3. They are back in action tomorrow against the Baltimore Orioles. Masahiro Tanaka, solid first simulation game on Sunday. He threw 29 pitches, 23 of them for strikes. He said he felt no pain afterwards. He will make his spring debut on Thursday. New York Mets had their ace return on Friday, Matt Harvey, and he looked like Matt Harvey. 2 perfect innings, 3 strikeouts. He hit 99 miles per hour on the gun. The Mets won that game 5-4 on a walk-off home run by prospect Matt Reynolds. Dylan G pitched against the Marlins on Saturday. 2 2/3 innings of shutout ball, 1 hit, 1 strikeout. The Mets lost 8-7. Jacob deGrom pitched against the Braves on Saturday in a split squad, and Jacob deGrom looked like Jacob deGrom. 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, and 1 strikeout. He actually had to pitch 3 innings so he can reach his pitch count. They beat the Braves 3-1 on Saturday. John Neese yesterday against the Boston Red Sox, 2 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. Zach Wheeler today for the Mets, not so good. 1 2/3, 2 hits, 6 earned, 2 walks, 2 batters hit, both of them in the second inning, 3 strikeouts. The Mets lost to the Marlins today, 13-2. Fred Wilpon actually met with Terry Collins today after the game for 25 minutes to discuss the problems surrounding the New York Mets. Sad news, Yu Darvish has a sprained UCL. Tommy John is a possibility. He is seeking the option of a second doctor to see, and then he will decide what to do with his elbow. The Phillies shut down Cliff Lee after he felt elbow soreness. He is likely to miss the season as well. NBA, you don't see this every day. The Atlanta Hawks lost the other night to the Sixers. They lost 92-84. The Sixers down 16 at one point, but at least the Hawks took care of business while they downed the Cavaliers on Friday, 106-97. LeBron struggling, 18 points, 5 for 13 from the field. Al Horford, 19 points, 9 boards for the Hawks. The Hawks will be back in action tonight against the Sacramento Kings. Yesterday, the Spurs beat the Bulls 116-105. Tony Parker had 32 points. The Spurs are in the 7th spot in the West. The Bulls are 3rd in the East. The Golden State Warriors beat the Clippers 106-98. They are now 27-2 at home. Draymond Green had 23 points and 6 rebounds. Golden State is 1st in the West. The LA Clippers are in 5th in the West. Another game, another triple-double for Russell Westbrook. The Thunder beat the Raptors 108-104 yesterday. RW, 30 points, 17 assists, 11 rebounds. Oklahoma City is in 8th in the West. The Raptors are in 4th in the East. The Suns visited Barclays Center the other night, took care of business. They beat Brooklyn Nets 108-100. Brook Lopez, 19 points, 13 boards. Back in action last night against the Jazz. They lost 95-88. The Nets struggling big time. Gordon Hayward had 24 points. Derek Favors had 22 for the Jazz. Brook Lopez, 19 and 10. D. Will struggled against his former team. They are back in action tomorrow at Barclays Center against the New Orleans Pelicans. The New York Knicks played the Indiana Pacers at the Garden on Saturday, and they lost again. 92-86. Andre Bargnani, 21 points. They are back in action tonight against the Nuggets at Denver at 9 o'clock. College ball, Duke completed the sweep of the UNC Tar Heels on Saturday, winning 84-77 in Chapel Hill. Tyus Jones, 24 points, 6 boards, 7 assists. Quinn Cook dropped 20 points. Duke finishes the regular season 28-3 overall, 15-3 in the ACC. They are the 2 seed in the ACC, and they have a double bye. UNC finishes the regular season 21-10, 11-7 in the ACC. They will play the winner of Boston College and Georgia Tech on Wednesday in the ACC tournament. It is underway tomorrow. Perfection complete, at least for the regular season. The Kentucky Wildcats are 31-0 after beating Florida 67-50 Saturday. Karl Towns, 13 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 blocks. Kentucky will play the winner of Alabama and Florida on Friday the 13th. Yes, I said that on purpose. The SEC tournament is underway on Wednesday. Number 16, Louisville, took down number 2, Virginia yesterday, 59-57. It was Virginia's first loss on the road all year. Montrezl Harrell had 20 points and 12 boards for Louisville. 1 seed Virginia plays the winner of Clemson and Florida State on Thursday. 4 Louisville plays the winner of UNC and the winner of the Boston College Georgia Tech game on Thursday. Wichita State upset yesterday in the Missouri Valley Conference semis against Illinois State. So that should shake up a few things on Selection Sunday, which is 6 days away. Get yourselves mentally prepared. Tonight, Sev Gonzaga against Pepperdine in the West Coast Conference semis. Northeastern and William Mary play in the Colonial Athletic Association finals. And 11-21 Furman can make the tournament with a win tonight against Wofford in the Southern Conference Championship. And locally, Manhattan College versus Iona in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference final. And yes, more Biggie. So really quickly, I want to talk about the New York Mets. The Mets have a lot of potential. They have awesome pitching with Matt Harvey, Jacob deGrom, Bartolo Colon, John Neese, Zach Wheeler, Dylan G, Noah Syndergaard. That's 7 pitchers who can throw sub-4 ERA. However, they are still missing that big-time threat at the plate. Daniel Murphy, great hitter. He batted .289 last year. David Wright, he's fallen off a little bit, but I do think he can make a solid comeback. Lucas Duda, not a big threat. He can give you 30 home runs and 100 RBIs, but as an opponent, I would not be too scared of him. Michael Kadire, great acquisition for the Mets, but again, not a big power hitter, especially at the age 36. He just has really good contact. I think the Mets are an 86-win team this year, and I think that they can do even more. But look at the amount of arms that they have, and look at the lack of big-time threats at the plate. Freddie Wilpon, Sandy Alderson, go make a trade. During the offseason, I said this the whole time. I said that the Mets should have gotten Nelson Cruz. If they acquired Nelson Cruz in the offseason, they would be a playoff team. Nelson Cruz had, 42 home runs last year? After signing a one-year, $8 million deal? The Orioles were expecting the guy to hit 20 home runs. He went off for 42. The guy is a phenomenal hitter, a legitimate threat at the plate, and now that he's with Seattle, he has Robinson Cano with him. Nelson Cruz is going to have a very, very good year, and he got a good payday with Seattle, signed for 4 years and $52 million, I think it was. The Mets should have gotten him, because the Mets, honestly, I think they would be a playoff team with him. When was the last time the Mets had a big threat at the plate? David Wright in his prime? Carlos Delgado? Carlos Beltran? Cliff Floyd? I don't even know. And they have guys who can hit the ball. And they have guys who can hit home runs. But I think that legit threat where the pitcher has to throw around you, I think that is their one missing puzzle piece. They're obviously not going to a 7-man rotation. But 6-man rotation, that's a possibility. And a very good one to keep Harvey healthy in case the Mets see October baseball. If they move one of these arms, let's say Nice or G or Syndergaard or Cologne, they can get a big-time player in return for one of those guys. All they need is a Lucas Duda-type player. They don't even need a big threat, now that I think about it. Lucas Duda can hit 30-100. If you get one guy who can do that, you'll be fine. Either that or Curtis Granderson needs to get his power back. Last season, batted .227, he had 20 home runs, he had 66 RBIs. With the Yankees in 2011 and 2012, he had 41 home runs and 43 home runs respectively, and I think his RBIs were well in the 100s. Yankee Stadium is a lot different than Citi Field. I get it. Yankee Stadium, anyone can hit a home run there. Citi Field, it's almost impossible. But take a look at his batting averages at Yankee Stadium. 2010, 247. 2011, 262. 2012, 232. In 2013, he only played in 61 games, but he batted an awful 229. When he was a Yankee, he had low averages, but good power. Now, he has a low average and poor power numbers. I think I knew the Mets weren't expecting a guy who's going to hit 280, 290. But I think they expected 30 home runs out of Curtis Granderson. They paid him a lot of money. Curtis Granderson has to start getting his power back. And he needs to get hits. If he's not going to hit the long ball, he has to be a good contact hitter. All the guy does is strike out. And if Curtis Granderson doesn't start making some moves, then the Mets need to make a trade. They need to get a hitter that Curtis Granderson has the potential of doing. They need to get a Lucas Duda type player and get rid of one of their arms. Because all 7 of those guys, they can throw sub-4 ERA easily. So why don't they trade them? You're going to have the 6 and 7 starters go up and down from AAA and the major leagues the entire season, and then you're going to finally decide on a set rotation in what, June, July? Just trade one or two of them and get a good hitter in return. The Mets have a lot of potential, but they are still missing that one piece. Can they make the postseason without that big bat? Yes. But I don't think they are going to go that far without that bat. Again, 86 wins, I think, this year, and they can probably get a lot more. I think they have the potential to be a 90-win team, but without that big-time bat, I don't see them moving on past the NLDS or maybe the NLCS. That's it. So Selection Sunday, 6 days away. Oh boy. This is going to be brutal. But big conference tournaments are starting this week, and it's going to be a lot of fun. 6 days are going to mean a lot. These next 6 days are going to they're going to shake up Selection Sunday big time. So real quick, I figured I'll give you guys my predictions. The top 4 seeds are Virginia, Duke, Notre Dame, and Louisville in the ACC. I would love to see a Duke and UNC final, and it's possible. I think North Carolina can move on to the quarterfinals, but you assume they're going to play. No, if they win, they would play Louisville because Louisville has a double bye. That's going to be a toss-up. I think North Carolina. That's tough. Either way, I don't think Louisville and North Carolina are going to win. I think it's going to be Virginia and Duke in the final. And I think Duke is going to win the ACC. I think Jahlil Okafor is a phenomenal player. I think Tyus Jones is crazy. And Quinn Cook is awesome. I think Duke is a little bit of a better team than Virginia. Duke is my prediction to win the ACC. Big 12, we have Kansas State, TCU, Texas, Texas Tech, Baylor, West Virginia, Kansas, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. I think it's just going to be between Kansas and Oklahoma. And my pick is going to be Kansas. I haven't seen much of them play, but I know that Kansas is a top 10 team as of, I think, a couple days ago. I think they were ranked 9th or 8th. I think Kansas is going to win the Big 12. The Big 10, I think the Big 10 is going to be a fun tournament to watch. Top 4 are Wisconsin, Maryland, Michigan State, and Purdue. And Ohio State, I think it can be a sleeper at 6. Iowa, I'm not too sold on them as the number 5. I think that this conference is going to Wisconsin. Frank Kaminsky is an absolute savage. He's a great college player. I think he's going to carry this team to the Big Ten championship. Going to move on to the Pac-12. Top 4, Arizona, Oregon, Utah, UCLA. I'm not even going to spend much time talking about this. A, because I don't know much about Oregon and Utah and UCLA. And 2, what I do know is that Arizona is the far better team than all of them. So, yep, Arizona going to win the Pac-12. What other big conferences are there? Oh, the SEC. I think I'm going to go to Kentucky with that one. I think they are a pretty good team. They are 31-0. They are the best college team I have seen in years and years and years and years. No matter who wins whatever conference tournament, Kentucky is winning their conference tournament. They are going to win the national championship. They're going undefeated. They are that good. It's unbelievable. I don't like Kentucky because I hate the system of one and done for basically their entire team. But how can you not root for a team to not go undefeated, to go undefeated? They're 31-0. They are a story, and they are a lot of fun to watch. I'm rooting for Kentucky, and if they lose, I'll be very surprised. I won't be surprised that they lost because it's very hard to go undefeated, especially in college basketball when upsets happen every time you turn around. But Kentucky is that good where I don't think they're going to lose. If they lose, I won't be surprised because, like I said, it's tough to go undefeated, but I'll be very, very surprised if they lose, if that makes sense. They are so good. They're so good. They have 10 they're 6 to 10 players. If they were their own team, they would be ranked. They have 3 guys. They're the tallest team in the NCAA, I feel like. They get every single rebound. Honestly, the Kentucky Wildcats can beat the Knicks without Carmelo. If Carmelo were healthy, then Carmelo would just drop 80 points on them. Kentucky can seriously beat the Knicks. I legitimately believe that. Their average height is like, 6'6"? And Cauley Stein and Karl Towns, they're 7 feet tall, and they play like they're 6'5", 6'6". They are freaks of athletes. They are freaks. Speaking of NCAA basketball and March Madness, it's March. That means it's time for your March Madness fact of the day. All of you guys who want a perfect bracket, I know you guys hear a million odds of the actual odds of a perfect bracket. You hear 1,000,000 to 1, 1,000,000,000 to 1, 3,000 quintillion, billion, illion, zillion, whatever. The odds of a perfect bracket are officially, according to Fox Sports, 9 quintillion, 223 quadrillion, 372 trillion, 36 billion, 854,775,808. Warren Buffett, is your bet still in place? Because I have a very good feeling that I'm going to get a perfect bracket this year. I think I will be one of those 372 trillion, 36 billion, 854,775,808 brackets. I sound like one of those auctioneers. And the 2, and the 2,000, and then go next, and the next, and the next. How do people come up with that? Like, did someone really, sit down and write out every single possible bracket? If you actually did that, then A, good for you. B, get a life. It's like people who can memorize, the first 20,000 numbers of pi. Pi is, what are they called? Infinite numbers? And people can recite, unless if you're like Rain Man, people can recite, the first 20,000 numbers of it. I can't name the first 10. Whoever figured out those odds, good for you. I don't know how you did that. Oh, yeah, more Biggie Smalls. March 9th, 1997, worst day in rap history. One of the worst days in music history. So, lost for words. Biggie, rest in peace. But this is the end of the show. Thank you all very much for tuning in. I have to close out the show with the greatest rap song ever made by yours truly, Notorious B.I.G. Seriously, best song ever. I also have to play this song because it's my sister's 14th birthday today. Hail, happy birthday, love you, miss you. 12 days until we're in Turks and Caicos. Cannot wait to see you. Very proud of you and everything that you've done. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning into this show. I will be back here in the studio Thursday at 6 o'clock. It's not goodbye. It's see you later. Take care, everybody. It's all good. And if you don't